Welcome to Eagle Spire Gaming. I'm your host, Crown, and today is October 6th. We are doing an experiment in list building. Last week's video was a tactics video on min-maxing your formations and your detachment sizes. And today we are going to be making lists utilizing some of those principles. A commenter mentioned that you should make a list with 25% of your detachments small, 25% of your detachments large, and the remaining 50% medium sized. So that's what we're gonna do. I saw that. I thought, yeah, I should try that out. Let's see how that plays out. It might be a little bit constraining at times, and it might be a little bit challenging to try to fit everything into those niches like that. But it's it's an interesting concept, and I wanted to do it, so I did. And that's what we're gonna do here today. I'm gonna go over the two lists that I came up with, and to start with, I made a huge mistake. I initially read this as formations, so the Solar Auxiliary formation. The Solar Auxiliary list I made following that concept, but restricting the formations. And that made it very restrictive. I even commented before I realized it. I even said the word detachment, though. I said, yeah, doing this with detachments might be tricky. But in my head, I was thinking formations. So when I made this, I ran into a couple of roadblocks here and there. The first thing I thought about when I was looking at it was, if we're going to do that. Now, in a 3,000 point game, I'm always going to assume that we're talking about 3,000 point lists. You are going to have 1,500 points is 50% of your army. So the remaining 25% that's 750 points each. So small formations were 750 points, large formation 750 points, and then my medium formations totaled are going to equal 1,500. So if I broke that into two formations, they're just as big as my large formation. So you got to break it into three, and then you've got three formations of 500. I, rounded it out a little bit, tweaked it up. It's trying to put such a constraint on your formation is tricky. So it ended up being my medium formations. I ended up with like 530. Two formations of 530 and 535, and a formation of 430, which equals out to 1,495. No, 1,490. Sorry. Right? This is a terrible time to be checking my math. No, it equals out to 1,500 exactly. Right? Am I doing that right? 35 and 35 is 70. Yeah, oh man, no. I've been looking at this for like 10 minutes, and I thought for sure that it was I was 10 points shy of my goal of 1,500. Okay, cool. So I did it. And then we get to and then I failed again. 750 points just wasn't a lot for a large formation. So I stole a little bit from the small formation pool. I also didn't want to make that many tiny formations. You can make so many. You can make like 5 or 6, I think, if you went absolutely the minimum sized formation and you looked at just pioneers, or because this is my Solar Auxiliary list, you just look at pioneer companies or sub cohorts, and you can have 6 formations in there in 750 points, easy. Maybe 5. So I stole from that and gave those to gave some extra points to our large formation. So what we ended up having is 20% of the list. 20% of the entire list is in small formations, and 30% is in one big formation. Everything else is tiny. Is the medium-sized formations. Now, if you're not in the Solar Auxiliary, you want to see the Space Marine list, I will leave a comment. I will leave a link in the notes, and telling you what time the Space Marine, the Legion of Astartes list is going to start. Also, if you don't want to see me do this the wrong way with formations, that one is going to be detachments. And I'll talk about that after this one. But first, for the Solar Auxiliary list, I went with two things. First, when I was making the list, I did a lot of, where I could, I just copy pasted. So I've got two small formations. They're the exact same. I didn't feel a need to tweak them and have them, one be slightly different than the other. It keeps it simpler when you're trying to pull out your models and you're trying to set them up and do the deployments and everything, and get them ready to deploy them. You just grab the same formation twice, right? You don't, you don't need to be thinking about it like, this one needs a few more guys and that one needs more of the rapiers, and this one needs more guys with axes, or this one needs more tarantulas. You just do, cut and paste, keep it simple. The same concept for when you are putting together your tanks, instead of having, this tank's got heavy bolt responsons and this one's got las cannons, you just keep them all the same, make it nice and easy for you, make it simple for you to grab it up, pick it up and go. The weapons one is a little bit more important for also being able to effectively kill what you're shooting at, but it's the same thing, right? So we started off with two Pioneer Forces. I went to these as my go-to because initially I wasn't sure if I would have the points elsewhere to fit in our bastions, right? Rapier batteries and tarantula batteries. Tarantula batteries being pretty important. I like them for anti-aircraft. They have, when I shoot them at aircraft, the aircraft dies. That has always been my result. Didn't matter if it was a Thunderhawk or otherwise. I normally buff them up a little bit, give them some extra numbers, and put 6 in there. And in this case, I didn't. I had the minimum. I went for minimum, and so yeah, we have two formations. In our small formations, we have two exact copy-paste, same thing, formations of Pioneer Forces. I didn't put in a, these are going to be forward, so I didn't get the good commander. I just used the tactical commander, the 10-point guy, because he's just going to die. He's going to die pretty quickly on, because it's a pretty minimum formation. I did spring for a little bit of extra points. So it's minimum size storm section, minimum size rapier battery, and minimum size tarantulas. Use the weapons you want here. I would probably go for, looking at it, I'm gonna put in the las battery and the Imperialis air defense, because I want that air defense, and I'm not concerned about getting in some barrage weapons right now. I don't feel the need for that in this list, in this spot. If you want to, go for it. And maybe I'll play it a couple of times and then I'll change my mind. But yeah, so we went with those, and then we did add in an optional slot, battle tank. We're gonna put in a pair of Malcadors in both of these formations, so 4 Malcadors total. I ran out of space for them in the medium-sized formation, so I figured that they'd be just fine. They'd do just fine here in the, and I didn't have any more space in the large formation. So yeah, they'll do just fine in here in the medium, and it gives them forward deploy, so they can sneak up a little bit closer. They've got a lot of range. They got a lot of movement on that chassis, so it lets them get even closer. They'll take good advantage of it in that Pioneer Force. It'll give us a little bit more of a middle ground, because you're probably going to charge those axe guys in right away. You might not want to. You might want to sneak them into a building, but I mean, they're going to get shot at. They're going to get blown up. Like, they're probably not going to live very long, and This gives us something in the mid-ground to hold on to, and as a Malcador, you put a bunch of heavy bolters on the sponsons and the hull mount, and you've got quite a bunch of that's quite a few guns there. You know, they'll tear into some infantry that moves forward. Don't feel the need to fire Overwatch at something that's charging at you. Hold back and move back, scoot backwards. You know, when you go to activate, scoot back and then fire your point defense guns as part of your movement. You don't lose your activation, and they won't get to survivors won't get to hack at you. If you've already moved, and you should be holding on to these guys until later. If you've already moved, then yeah, feel free to if you're getting charged, you're not going to get to shoot those guns elsewhere. So feel free to Overwatch. So we got 2 of those, exact same. Then we come to the first of our medium-sized formations, and it's going to be an armored company. And we're going to have 2 of this armored company as well. You've got your tank commander. That's just how it is. And then we're going to have a Layman Russ strike squadron and a Malcador tank squadron and an Auxilia, the Stormhammer squadron. All of those are going to have the minimum, so it's going to be 4 Layman Russ, it's going to be 2 Malcadors, and it's going to be 1 unit, one individual Stormhammer. If we weren't doing if we weren't trying to go 25, and if we weren't trying to go 20, 50, 30 on our formations, then we could pull those other Malcadors back and put them into, combine them up here. We'd save a few points. Not a lot of points, not many points to do anything with, because let me just double check this. The extra 2 would be 130. Yeah, so we'd save like 30 points. We'd save 60 points. I mean, it's enough for 2 more auxiliary squads, auxiliary detachments, las rifle detachments. But trying to do something here, and it does give us more activations of tanks, so that's always nice too. And again, Vanquisher cannons on the Layman Russ, heavy bolters for all the sponsons and side weapons, and you'll be able to do something with you'll be able to put out some damage to a horde. But for the Malcadors, I'm going to go with all las cannons on these ones. These guys are just going to be tank hunting. You could put in the Vanquisher cannon if you want. I'm going to do a video about some Malcador builds. My philosophy here with them is there's 36 different Malcador loadout combinations, and my philosophy is I have 4 loadouts that I'm going to build, and I'm just going to build those 4 loadouts. I'm not going to build anything else. And if you can hear the horn right now, my kids are playing in the car. Finally, in the armored company, we are going to have in each of them 1 individual bomber, marauder bomber, and my go-to for these have been the Colossus. Pick and choose what you prefer the best. The Colossus, it's got that extra big bomb. It drops at one time, and it suddenly loses a whole bunch of its firepower. It's a big bomb, though, and you might not get a chance to shoot again, so you might not survive to shoot again, so you might as well drop it. If you prefer something else, go with that. Then we're going to have again, 2 of those. So that we now have 8 Layman Russes spread out into 2 detachments. We have 2 Stormhammers, and we have 8 Malcadors spread out into 4 detachments. So there's quite a few activations there, and there's a lot of firepower there. And it's going to give your opponent choice paralysis, where it doesn't really matter if he takes out those Layman Russes or these Layman Russes, he still has to deal with Layman Russes. And even if he finishes those, he's got Malcadors to deal with. Malcadors are great. For the third and final medium-sized detachment, artillery company. And it's bare bones. There's nothing else special to it. I wanted to put in a support unit just so I could throw the tactical commander in there, but I didn't have the points, and I could have stolen points from somewhere else, but then I wouldn't have really fit into the 1,500 points of medium detachments, so I just didn't. They're minimum sized. I like these because when Basilisks were first, when their rules, their points, cost, abilities, everything, when their sheet was first leaked, I saw a lot of people say, "Oh, that's too good," and then and now people are using them. Oh, they're not that good. You can't please everybody. They're either too good or they're not good enough. I like them because it's damage where I want it. And, if a Malcador squadron didn't finish off something, I can put a little bit of damage on it. If a Lehman Russ squadron didn't finish something off, I can put a little bit more damage on it and maybe I can kill it. I'm probably not going to cause anybody to break and run. I'm probably not going to take out an entire tank squadron, but I can put some more chip damage, and it doesn't matter if it was on the left side of the field, the center of the field, the middle of the field, it goes wherever. Which does become less good on first fire, because that damage anywhere, the Lehman Russes can't wound something for the Basilisk to then pick off if the Lehman Russes were on advanced fire orders. So maybe the first turn, first fire some things to whittle down some of the firepower that's coming back at you. Just know that they're not going to run, and they're probably not going to run away, and you're probably only going to take out a tank or two. 4 of them have 50% chance to hit. 4 of them are going to hit twice, and then your opponent's going to have an armor save, which I think with let me see here, I think it's an AP2, so anything that's a 2-up becomes a 4-up, and then it has a 50% chance to save. So, if you're shooting at a Russ squadron, then you have a 50% chance to kill a Russ. If you're shooting at a Kratos squadron, you have each hit would be a 50. If you're shooting at a Kratos squadron, you're probably only going to do one, each battery is probably only going to hurt one Kratos. If you can kill a Kratos, that's 75 points. And you'll need at least 2 batteries, 2 4-man batteries to get it. So, probably not going to be the best way to do it. It's just damage that can go anywhere, right? Don't think of it as game winning. Think of it as game fixing. Finally, we come to our the last attachment. I played around with this for a little bit. I originally wanted to do a sub-cohort, and I was going to put them in Dracosans for the transports. And then finally, I ended up deciding to put them in a mechanized sub-cohort. And that let me put, because again, points constraints on the formations meant that I wanted to have a pair of Sentinel squadrons, and I couldn't put them into the Pioneer companies where I would have had plenty of slots for them. I had to put them into the large formation, and the large formation as a Pioneer company, it just couldn't hold them, so I made it into a mechanized sub-cohort, and that meant that I had to tweak some other stuff around. It also, that's where the originally had 3 Malcador squadrons, the third one being in the sub-cohort, but I lost that slot. I lost that slot to other stuff when I switched over to the mechanized sub-cohort. It doesn't have that tank squadron in there. So we have a Las Rifle Tertio with 2 additional auxiliaries, and a Las Rifle Tertio with 4 additional auxiliaries. Those can be flamers if you want them to be. All 6 of those can be flamers, or you can mix and match however you please. I went with just las rifles for the first one and flamers for the second one. And then I'll show you what I'm doing here in a minute. And then we have just a minimum size storm section for the support option, the mandatory compulsory support slot. We got the two Vanguard sections, both of them at six Sentinels apiece. 2 Sentinel squadron detachments at 6 Sentinels apiece. And then we have a lightning. My second favorite way to deal with the enemy aircraft is lightning fighters. Really, any fighter will do, but if you give lightning fighters some las cannons and a bunch of missile bombs, Skywing, Skyfire, Sky, it's Hellfire or Skyfire, Skyfire missiles, they will. That's a good way to do it, and I like to put them into a big squadron of 4. Because when I get intercept, then I can shoot a whole bunch. I can shoot off 8 missiles at the enemy. So, and then we have the last chunk of points here, and there's a lot of points actually, is going to be Dracosans. Transports for those 3 infantry units. I have 7 of them. I was able to squeeze in 7. And that gave me, I was able to put 4 of them have the Demolisher Cannon, and you can put those on they'll carry the Velatari. Actually, no, they'll carry the large. Oh, did I do this wrong? Yeah, they'll carry the large formation. So the large formation with the flamers, the flamethrowers can clear out things inside buildings, and then the Demolisher cannons can actually blow up buildings. So that's the one that's going forward the most, right? And then we have the remaining 3 are going to have. Well, I didn't do this list right either, because it's too many. It's too many Dracosans now, actually. No, I did it right. What am I talking about? I'm not paying attention. 1 Dracosan carries the storm section, and then the remaining 2, because it's 7, the remaining 2 will carry the las rifle tertio with the 2 additional auxiliaries. It's a 6-man unit, plus the commander makes 7. That's why it's a 6-man, so that it can fit him and only take up 2 spots. Because you need 8. You need 7. 7 fits into 8. Yep. Okay, cool. So that's the not done properly, because I was looking at formations, not detachments. Min-maxed 25, 50, 25 list. Except it ended up becoming 20, 50, 30. 22 minutes, and we are getting to the Astartes list. So for this one, I actually did do it right, and it is detachments. 25% of the points are used on our on our small detachments. 25% of the list is used on our large detachments, and 50% is used on our medium detachments. This was trickier. This was harder almost, because how do you define that it is a small detachment or a large detachment or medium detachment? Because the points change so much between tanks and infantry. A minimum unit of infantry will cost, for Space Marines, 35 points. And a minimum unit of Predators, of tanks, costs 115 points. Whereas a maximum unit of Assault Marines is only 65? Was it 65? 54 points. 54 points. Maximum size, and it costs way less. So we went with points. I had to decide on what really goes there, and really I went with points. If it was under, if it was a minimum sized, oh man, I don't know how I did this. Because I've got some things that are, so the infantry, hold on, I'm gonna have to double check myself real quick, because I might be, yeah, I don't know how I decided to do this. Some of the time I apparently went with, if it's a minimum, if I did not upgrade it, it is my minimum stuff, right? 750 points of, I didn't put any upgrades in this. And that includes our command, the Legion command, Legion command squads. And then if I upgraded it at all, I made it into a, I said that was a medium size. And then if I upgraded a whole bunch, or if it was tanks and it cost more than 200 points, I said that it was a large. I made another mistake apparently, and I'm just now seeing that. And there are 2 assault squads that I maxed out here, and I put them under the minimum size because it's only 54 points. They're still so cheap, even with 8 bodies in there. Good lord, how do you list build properly with that? So no big deal. We're gonna just ignore that. So I have 744 points for the small point formations. I have 100. I have 1,000 points for the large formations, and then I have 1250, or maybe it's more actually. I edited my notes later because I realized some stuff. But I got pretty close. It's just hard to, the large formations are just, it's hard to describe because 5 predators is apparently a very large formation. In points wise, it's almost 200 points. So it got tricky with this, but let's just get to the list. Let's not worry about that stuff. So, I picked a couple of legions for these. Feel free to do with what you wish. I didn't go for any kind of fluff with them. I just like, hey, what would this formation be good as? And what kind of formation should we have here? And the first formation I made was a very small formation, demi-company, of Space Wolves. Because knowing that my previous list had a bunch of infiltrators, let's try to lock that down a little bit, right? Space Wolves do that for you, and so much more. So it's demi-company. It's got a Dreadnought Talon in it, minimum, no upgrades. It's got 2 tactical detachments, minimum, no upgrades. Throw a commander in one of them, call it a day. I then put down a Tarantula battery. I like the Tarantulas for the anti-aircraft. And I put down another tactical detachment. And the reason I did that, the reason I buffed this formation up, I have no formation constraints in this time around. It's just detachment constraints. The reason I did that is those still get the Space Wolf trait, so I can space them out a little bit more, and that way I can cover my front line a little bit more. The Tarantula battery might not be the best way to cover my front line, but I did want to have a Tarantula battery, and it wasn't going to benefit too much from the other detachments, or from the other Legion traits, so I threw it in here. Final thing to add into this one, a minimum sized Predator squadron. So this covered a lot of quite a few of our minimum choices. And maybe the minimum Predator squadron, 115 points, maybe that's medium. How are you really deciding how these go? It's kind of up to you. I went with it's a minimum sized formation, so we counted it in there for determining this little experiment, this little exercise. The next thing I wanted to do, I absolutely had to do this, was I wanted to make a very big formation, knowing I didn't have to have a formations be large. I wanted a big formation of Ultramarines. I talked about this in the last video. Ultramarines benefit from that, from a large formation, and this is where we're gonna see that. My HQ choice, I would not have been able to make this list back before Talaran book came out, but we're gonna go with a Kratos commander, and he will be joining some Kratoses. We then have a Legion Terminator detachment, and I maxed those out. There are 4 of those, 4 additional Terminators, so 8 Terminators. My plan with them is Ultramarines. Legion trait is that if you have hit an enemy detachment before with that formation, hitting them again with you get shooting at them some more with another detachment in that formation is you're gonna do a better job at, right? So the Terminators have the ability to, at the end of, after all your other moves have come down, after everything else is moved, and you realize, oh, hey, that unit that I want to shoot at, I don't have anybody else to shoot at it first before these guys get to it and can do the damage. I want to hit them first so I can add that buff to it. You can drop those Terminators in, and now they are going to achieve that for you. Then we have 2 Legion tactical detachments with minimum on the tacticals, extra missile support, 4 additional missile launcher guys in there, and all of them are going to go into rhinos. We have 2 transports of they aren't in dedicated spots, they're just in the transport slots, and it's gonna be 4 rhinos in each of those, so all 8 of those guys can hop in and ride around. We will have another there's a 3rd tactical choice slot, third core slot here with the same loadout, but they're not going to have a rhino. That's where you'll put your commander in. They'll have to hoof it. A Dirido Dreadnought detachment in our Bastion slot, and those counted for the minimum guys because I didn't give them any upgrades. Which is odd because so they cost 85 points, and then there's people in here that cost 65 points. These tactical missile launchers that cost 65 points. They're in the upgraded slot, the medium size slots. Then we're gonna have for our support detachments, we're gonna have a rapier battery. I just like rapier batteries. They're terrible kits to build. They're not fun like that at all. I haven't built the Space Marine ones, but if they're anything like the Solar Auxiliary ones, I'm not looking forward to it. I'll do it. I'm going to. But it felt like it was good for Ultramarines because it's quad launcher. So again, same thing as the Terminators. By being able to, these have barrage, and by dropping these in somewhere else that you wouldn't have been able to see normally, these are going to trigger that Ultramarines trait and allow you to, the real guys that you want to shoot at it are going to be able to do more damage. Or maybe somebody else, maybe the Terminators tagged them, and these, the quad launchers are going to finish them off, right? Enemy thought that they were going to be safe behind a wall. Nope, they're not, because you got some rapiers, and you can move the rapiers and then shoot. It doesn't matter. It's all good. A Dreadnought Talon. Oh, and we're going to put 2 extra rapiers there, so it's 4. And Dreadnought Talon is going to have 2 extra Contemptors, so we got 6 Contemptors there. My first draft of this list had so many Contemptors in it. There were Contemptors everywhere. There was also a lot of tactical Marines. I think there were 54 bases of tactical Marines. I realized I had to do something about that, so I cut them back. We have a Land Speeder Squadron in here. There's going to be, we're going to have 4 of them, so we're going to buff them up a little bit. And I went with Melt-A-Flamer because the Melt Gun, better at taking out tanks. The idea here is, again, with the Ultramarine trait, these guys can go somewhere that nobody else would have been able to get to, and they can help you tag something that maybe your Kratoses want to shoot at, or those missile launchers want to shoot at, but you don't have enough firepower. Or the missile launchers can shoot first, depending on who's got, who's what, who's going to benefit more from that trait. Yeah, that's why we got those in here. And it helps me get to a bigger formation. I really wanted a really big formation here. Then we have a light armor choice. Can't wait to see what Solar Auxiliary get for light armor. But we have the Saber Squadron. And we added 2 more Sabers into there for that medium-sized detachment. Then we get to, I just like the way the Kratos Sabers, they're very quick. They can get anywhere, they can get around the board. They got a lot of speed, and they got a lot of missiles. Heavy armor, choice slot of heavy armor. We're going to have a 5-man, very beefed up, very big. This is one of the first big squadrons that we have. We're gonna have Kratoses. And I put the Melta blast gun on them with the heavy bolters, because if I do want to shoot a building with these, I'm not gonna be able to shoot anything else. So heavy bolters. And if I'm going to shoot at a Titan, if I'm going to shoot at a couple of Bane Blades or something, something worthy of these Melted Blast guns, I may not need all the extra las cannons. So heavy bolters, help me clear out infantry. Let me shoot some of my guns that aren't going to be able to shoot at the other stuff. That is the Ultramarine detachment. Very big, very powerful. It is the core of your army in here. That entire detachment costs 1265. That is almost all of the armor of the other list. The next detachment formation that we're going to go over, that we're going to have here, is I added in an armored company. Now, originally here I had 2 more demi companies, and I went with a demi company of Death Guard with a bunch of Terminators and some more Kratoses, and the idea would be that they could section off a portion of the map where it is now dangerous terrain, but they could go through it. They could close with the enemy. They could go for that objective, and I ended up, and then another demi company of Emperor's Children, and those would be able to give us that initiative 1 turn, and I ended up deciding against that just because it was a lot of demi companies. It was a lot of tactical marines, even without upping the number of tactical marines I had anywhere. I just had so many. It was because that's 4 tactical marines right there, and then we got 2, and there's 2 in the Ultramarines demi company. No, there's 3 in the Ultramarines demi company, and there's 3 in the Space Wolf demi company, just to spread out those. So it's just too many of those. So I switched it to an armored company. Cool thing about the armored company, if you want to put dangerous terrain on the battlefield, you can do it with an armored company. You're not gonna have a whole bunch of infantry trying to slog through that area, but if you want, you can make these guys Death Guard. If you want that first turn initiative, you can make these Emperor's Children. It doesn't matter. You can put it either way. Use what you want on this. Don't make them Imperial Fist. Don't make them. You probably don't need to make them Space Wolves. There's a couple of options that you can put them as. You can make them more Ultramarines again. It doesn't matter. I left it blank. Put what you want in there. But we got a battle tanks Predator squadron with 2 extra Predators, so that makes 5. We got a Sicarian Arcus squadron with 3 extra Sicarians, that makes it 5, a detachment of 5. And we have a Kratos squadron with 1 extra Kratos, and that makes it 3. What did I do there? I made all of those odd numbers so that if you kill 2 of my tank, I don't have to make kill 2 Layman Russes, kill 2 Predators, I don't have to make a morale check. Kill 2 Sicarians, I don't have to make an armor check. You kill 2 Kratoses, I've got 1 Kratos left, so maybe don't kill those. Maybe aim for that other squadron that's got 6 guys in it. It's a small detachment. It's only got those 3 units, but you can push them forward. You can be a bit more aggressive with them, or you can hold back. It is a lot of firepower on them, and it does have some anti-air capabilities with the Arcus. They have that nice gun that kind of works that missile launcher works good for either shooting at tanks or shooting at flying tanks. It doesn't matter. Works both for either or. And then the last formation I had is a Legion Aerial Assault. I made them Blood Angels. You could also make them World Eaters, or you can just make them whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Put them as something else, but I just, I felt Blood Angels would be a good mix. I was trying to go Legion Trader, Loyalist Trader. Didn't work out in the end because then I deleted half of it. So now it looks like the entire list is currently Loyalist. And you could use them however, Loyalist and Trader. You can use any of these legions can be Loyalist or Trader, but traditionally speaking, these are all Loyalist. So far, these are all Loyalist legions. Aerial Assault, I kept it simple. I just put in the 2 minimum tactical detachments and a maxed out assault detachment, followed by another maxed out assault detachment, and then we needed 2 Thunderhawks to transport all those assault marines, and we needed 2 Storm Eagles to transport all of those tactical marines. If you wanted to save a whole bunch of points, you could leave out the assault marines, one of the assault marine detachments, and a whole gunship, a whole Thunderhawk. Yeah, you could almost. Unfortunately, you just can't get rid of the Storm Eagle. Like, you're going to need a Storm Eagle to transport the 5th. You could put all 8 of the tactical marines into a Thunderhawk, but then you don't have anywhere to put the commander. Unless you, and I really didn't want to do this. As the rules are written, I don't think there's anything that says you can't. You can make that commander, you can make that HQ slot into one of your tank commanders, and you throw him down onto the battlefield, and he doesn't have to fit into a, he could just be driving alongside somebody else. He doesn't have to fit into a transport at that point. I didn't like that, so I didn't do it. But if you wanted to, like, I have some lines I don't want to cross, and if you want to, go for it. But yeah, so those were 2 lists. Sorry it took a little bit to talk about. I just wanted to, go through why I picked some of the things, how I would use them in the field. I didn't really tell you how I'd use these guys, but so this list, this Ultramarine, the Space Marine list here, it's got quite a few transports. There are the 2 Rhino blocks, and then the air assault block. And really, the Rhinos are just to get those guys up the field a little bit quicker and into a building that they can shoot from. Originally, I gave them the Havoc missile launchers, but I didn't have enough points. I had to pull back. In fact, this came out to 2,999 points. You could pull off something, there's plenty of upgrades you could take off if you wanted to give those the Havoc launchers. But I just, I was trying to fit in the constraints of like get everything to match up to that 25, 50, 25. And I didn't quite get there. I did my best. Let me know if you can do better. And share us a link to it so that we can all see. And I'll feel humiliated. But yeah, the air assault is going to be where you're going to really strike into the enemy and get those get Marines down into the backfield. Save them for later in the game. Use them early on. There's a lot of guns on those transports. Despite being transports, they've got firepower on them, especially the Thunderhawks. And assault Marines, dropping behind some tanks and then charging them. Just make sure. I messed this up. I got too excited yesterday. I was playing yesterday, and I infiltrated some Storm Velatari. We were doing all-out war. So all-out war or open war, where the deployment zones are right up next to each other. I got really excited. I infiltrated some Velatari Storm right behind his Sakarans, and I charged them. And they were on first fire order, so I didn't really think about it. But he was able to. His commander was in some Rhinos. He dropped off the commander near the Sakarans. He changed their order from first fire to advance, and they moved away from me. And my my Velatari are just sitting there with these power axes, like, what do we do now? And they got chewed up by a warlord. The point defense guns on a warlord shot them to bits. So yeah, he was gonna shoot them at him, and I was like, no, dude, don't do that. You're gonna lose the activation. You're gonna lose the activation on the warlord. Just shoot some 4 dudes with axes. Yeah. So let me know how you like these lists. Let me know if you want to keep seeing me make more lists like this. And I appreciate you sticking around all the way to the end of this. I realize it's a long one. I just like to talk. But yeah, as always, I've been your host, Crown. Thanks for flying by.